Musashi walked through a world where deception meant death and where misreading an intention could end your lineage forever. However, in more than 60 life-or-death encounters, he was never deceived, never taken by surprise, and never outsmarted. He did not achieve this through superior strength or faster reflexes, but by discovering the invisible architecture of the human mind, the hidden patterns that govern how we think, decide, and reveal our deepest intentions without even knowing it. To understand his mastery, imagine the morning of April 13, 1612. Ganryu Island is shrouded in fog, and on the beach, the famous Sasaki Kojiro waits. Kojiro, known as the Demon of the Western Provinces, carries a 3-foot blade of perfect steel. He is a man whose sword moves faster than the eye can follow. He arrived at dawn as honor demanded, his mind sharp and his muscles coiled like a spring. But as the sun rises and the fog lifts, there is no sign of Musashi. While Kojiro stands on that beach, he becomes increasingly frustrated, impatient, and angry. His mind is being sculpted by the delay. Every passing minute carves away at his composure and his confidence. By the time Musashi finally appears 3 hours late, the duel has already been won. This is the first principle of invisible warfare. Time is not neutral. It is a weapon. The person who controls the flow of time controls everything else. Consider how this applies to your modern world. The colleague who always answers your emails exactly 24 hours later is controlling time to establish psychological dominance. The salesperson who creates artificial deadlines is building a relationship based on urgency. The person who constantly arrives 15 minutes late to meetings is training everyone else to wait and settle around their schedule. When Musashi finally gets off his boat, he isn't even carrying a steel sword. Instead, he holds a roughly carved piece of wood, a rowing oar molded during his trip. Kojiro laughs and the spectators murmur, but Musashi understands that the most powerful weapon is the disruption of expectation. In his final work, The Book of Five Rings, Musashi wrote that you must understand there is more than one reality. What people believe to be real and what is actually happening are often completely different things. This is the key to navigating modern deception. Every day, people present you with carefully constructed versions of reality. The smiling colleague who sabotages your project, the salesperson creating false urgency, or the politician offering solutions to problems they helped create. They succeed because most people only see the superficial story. Musashi trained to see the true form hidden behind the apparent form. In practice, this means walking into a business meeting and ignoring the friendly surface to notice the micro-tensions. You observe who sits where, who speaks first, whose ideas are recognized and whose are ignored. You notice the meeting behind the meeting, the one happening in glances and in what remains unsaid. You notice when people check their calendars not to look at dates, but to buy themselves time to think. This skill is not mystical. It is simply learning to observe without projecting your own assumptions. Most people see the world through a filter of their own hopes and fears, but Musashi called for polishing the mirror of perception until all dust and distortion are removed. There is a story about a duel where Musashi's opponent kept waiting for him to take a fighting stance, but Musashi simply stood there, completely relaxed. This lack of tension drove his opponent to a state of desperate frustration, leading to a fatal mistake. Musashi had learned to become psychologically invisible. When the mind is calm and fully present, you don't emit signals that others can read. There is no tension to exploit and no emotion to manipulate. You become like water without form until the moment you need to take it. This state of stillness is the ultimate defense against deception. When someone tries to manipulate you, they are looking for a hook your fears, desires, or ego. But if your mind is like still water, their tactics have nothing to grab onto. Think of the last time someone bothered you. Your breathing changed and your body tensed, providing information the other person could use against you. But if you respond from a state of internal stillness, your voice remains stable and your posture unchanged. You process information without defensiveness. This is what Musashi called the mind that does not stick. Modern cognitive neuroscience confirms this. When we are emotionally reactive, our rational brain disconnects, making us predictable and manipulable. However, those who maintain psychological neutrality, much like the most successful FBI interrogators or MIT negotiators, win by processing information more effectively than their opponents. Musashi discovered centuries ago that emptiness is not absence, but potential. When your mind becomes silent, you begin to see the intentions of people before they even act. because you are no longer drowning out the world with your own mental noise. Instead of meticulously planning your next move, true mastery involves being fully present in the moment. In this state, the appropriate action arises spontaneously, perfectly tailored to the unique demands of daily life. This presence facilitates a profound transformation, the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. When faced with unfair criticism from a superior, you do not immediately defend yourself. Instead, you pause and observe. You recognize their stress and fears manifesting in their words. Your response then stems from clarity rather than ego or emotion. This strategic emptiness creates a psychological space where truth can emerge naturally. By not pushing an agenda or defending a position, you allow others the room to reveal more than they intended. Miyamoto Musashi understood that most people are uncomfortable with silence and will rush to fill the void with unprompted justifications and information. Skilled negotiators and therapists utilize this by creating a container of attentive presence that others naturally feel compelled to fill. Every person follows an invisible internal script, a story about their worth, fears, and identity. While manipulators play with these scripts, Musashi looked deeper to see what people were desperately trying to hide from themselves. He looked for contradictions, such as a businessman who talks of success but cannot make eye contact regarding finances, or a friend whose laughter feels forced. These contradictions are not character flaws but valuable information. They highlight the gap between a person's authentic self and their projected self. Musashi called this seeing the spirit of the enemy, which involves understanding the underlying motivations and fears driving a person's actions. Consider a salary negotiation where a manager claims the budget is tight, yet displays signs of personal affluence. The superficial story is about financial restriction, but the deeper pattern reveals a conflict in priorities, or perhaps the manager's need to control the narrative. When you recognize these underlying patterns, you stop arguing with the superficial story and begin addressing the root concerns, finding the path of least resistance to your goal. Musashi inhabited the void between breaths, that microsecond between stimulus and response, to make decisions from a place of perfect balance. In daily life, this space allows you to choose your answer rather than bouncing off a trigger like a ball off a wall. Instead of attacking or withdrawing, you can ask questions or find common ground, resolving conflicts at such a fundamental level that the external fight becomes unnecessary. Ultimately, Musashi's greatest insight was that external deception is only possible because of internal self-deception. We often ignore our intuition and the physical signals of tension because facing the truth would be inconvenient or awkward. Your true opponent is not the person trying to deceive you, but the part of your own mind that prefers comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. Courage is required to see reality exactly as it is, especially when it necessitates difficult changes or admitting mistakes. By becoming honest about your own motivations and avoidance patterns, the lies of others become transparent. On the island of Genu, Musashi demonstrated that strength lies in the will to see reality clearly. Every moment offers a choice between clarity and confusion. The sword Musashi mastered was forged from pure consciousness, capable of cutting through illusions so the truth could be revealed. This intelligence lives within you, waiting for you to listen to it over your fears and conditioning. The path to never being deceived is not about outsmarting others, but about becoming so present and brave that deception cannot survive in your presence. The real war is internal. It is the choice to embrace the discomfort of truth over the comfort of illusion.